Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me for today's webinar. My name is Amber Hines, and I'm the owner of Ashbur. We specialize in Medicaid compliant annuities and work with attorneys across the country to help their clients qualify for Medicaid by using either a Medicaid compliant annuity or irrevocable burial trust. We do work with attorneys all over the country. Todd Watley is one of the attorneys that we work with. I'm happy to have him presenting today on the topic of gifting and Medicaid planning. Todd has over 20 years of experience being an attorney. He has his own practice in Arkansas, and he also helps other attorneys with coaching and really getting up to speed on the area of elder law. And now I'm going to turn everything over to Todd so that you can go ahead and get started.
Okay, thanks, Amber. Yeah, welcome everyone. And this is one of the topics that if you do elder law and if you do crisis planning, this is going to be one of those things. Yeah. Amber?
Yes.
Can you see me?
I can.
Okay, something popped up on my screen. Okay, thank you. Okay, welcome. Gifting is one of those things that you're going to come across. Number one, the client has done it in the past.
Now your sound went out on my end, Todd.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Just keep switching. Okay, here we go. Okay, so they've either gifted in the past or they have money and it's like, are we going to lose everything? So gifting is one of those crucial things that you need to understand and be able to figure out that will truly help you in your practice. Okay, so once again, my name is Todd Watley. I'm a certified elder law attorney. I am kind of a fiend for school, and so I got my LLM in elder law. I practice in Bentonville, Arkansas, and I've been an attorney now in February will be 25 years, and that just blows my mind. And like Amber said, I own and run the elder law coach and help attorneys learn this stuff, and I love teaching. So the goal in crisis planning typically, okay, just as a quick review, is to protect as many countable assets as possible. We want to get the client qualified as soon as possible without losing everything. And so typically, okay, in most cases, our goal is to spend down the countable assets on allowed expenses. That is personal items, funeral, medical supplies, the home, vehicles, repairs, attorney's fees. So there are things we can spend money on to get this person qualified, okay? And there are exempt transfers, and I've done a whole webinar with Amber on exempt transfers. If you have questions about those, don't know what those are, there is a webinar just on that that I've done in the past, and Amber can get you that. All right. Gifting, part of the assets, turning the rest into income. And so when someone comes in with money, our goal is, hey, we can protect this. We're going to give things away. And everybody's like, oh, there's a 5-year look back. Yeah, we know that. We can work through that. And what you need to understand is people will come into your office. If you can get them into your office, they'll be like, we know there's a 5-year look back. You can't do gifts. Medicaid's going to come back after the gifts that you give away. All of that's incorrect other than the 5-year look back. And so you've got to get the word out there to people. And typically nursing homes are not going to tell people, and definitely DHS, Medicaid, is not going to tell people that you can do this. And so getting the word out there, it's like, hey, there is something we can do, and here's what we do, okay? So typically in a married case, we transfer those assets, we spend down by transferring everything to the well spouse, okay? And that's very useful. We can do that, get someone qualified immediately. But the problem is with a single person, when a single person comes in with assets, typically spending money on those non-countable assets, such as the home, is not the best action, because typically with the home, the state wants to put a lien on that house and get their money back. So typically, we don't do a whole lot of spend down on things other than things that the person needs in the nursing home. The plan is simply give it away. Okay, so with a single person, the strategy is gifting part of the assets and returning the rest somehow to pay through the penalty period, which is caused by the gift. Okay, so let's go into that. So we typically will give away some money and then put the rest of it into either an annuity, a promissory note, or we give it, apply, and then return some of it. And I'll go through those in great detail in just a second. The gifting, the part of it that you're actually giving away, you can just give it outright to the kids. Here's some money. Or you can go into a third party trust to, if there's some issues with the family or whatever, you can gift it into a third party trust, or you can put it into a Medicaid asset protection trust. And the purpose of this today is not to explain those, it's just those are the ways that you can gift it out. Okay. So the amount that is gifted is what is protected. Okay, so we will give away some and then use some to pay for the penalty, and that's where it gets kind of complicated. So at the end of this, after I explain the partial return, the annuity, and the promissory note, we'll talk about how much is gifted and how much is put into the annuity at the very end. Okay, now I will say this a number of times because attorneys miss this all the time. When does the penalty start? So since 2006, when this whole thing changed on us, 3 things have to be in place to start the penalty. And I'll go through this a number of times because I don't want you to miss it. Number 1, the person's got to be in a nursing home or receiving a nursing home level of care. Number 2, the person's got to be otherwise qualified for Medicaid. And number 3, you have to apply for Medicaid to start the penalty. Okay, and I'll go through those more. Okay, let's look at an example. So we have Harold, $100,000, and he is in the nursing home. He's going into the nursing home, and now the family typically comes to see you. The family wants him to qualify for Medicaid as soon as possible and possibly save some of the assets. Okay, so how we do that is what you may think is, and I explain this to people, this is the process that I go through with people to say, okay, here's our options. We could give it all to the family, and that's going to create a penalty. And the penalty is the length of time that the gift would have paid for the nursing home had you not given away the money. Okay, so what Medicaid does is takes the gift, divides it by the divisor for your state, which should be the average cost of nursing home care in your state. And that comes up with the number of months penalized, which another way to say that is this gift would have paid for this many months had you not given it away. So if we just give it all away, come up with the penalty, someone's got to pay for the nursing home for that length of time. And if you don't do anything else, you just pay the money back to cover the penalty. Well, that doesn't help us any. You give it all away and pay it all back on the penalty. There's a better way. Okay, the solution is a partial gift. Okay, so typically the way I explain this to clients is I say, look, we can basically give away half of the gift. So if we have $100,000, we do a $50,000 gift. Then we somehow get the other back in a way to pay for the penalty. So rather than giving away $100,000, having a penalty for that, we only give away half the penalty, and then the other money pays for that penalty, allowing us to protect half. And this is commonly known as half a loaf planning. Okay, So Harold's $50,000 gift, if, let's just say for just pure easy numbers, the penalty divisor is $5,000 per month. 50 divided by $5,000 is 10-month penalty. So that means we've got to get them under, in Arkansas, in my state, we've got to get under $2,000. So whatever it takes to get you under that amount to otherwise be qualified, in my state, that's going to be $48,000. So we give away 50, and then we have 48 to pay back over the next 10 months, which is almost the price of the nursing home. So we've protected 50, and the other money, the other half of the money, is there to pay income to cover the penalty period. All right. Something is driving me crazy. Okay. Now, applying for Medicaid. Okay. When you do this process, when they come into you with money and you do this process, you do the gifts, and then you have to apply for Medicaid. So he's in a nursing home, giving away or getting all of the money out of his account gets him otherwise qualified. And then the third step is to apply. So you apply saying, here's the gift. Medicaid comes back and says, aha, we see the gift, and therefore there's a penalty. Well, we've taken care of this penalty with the other money. And then typically, number two is at the end of this penalty period that we've created, you have to apply again. Okay. Client comes in, we come up with the plan, we do the plan, apply for Medicaid, knowing that you're going to get denied, but that's a requirement to start the penalty. Then go back to DHS once this penalty is through and said, hey, we're back, we're through the penalty, you need to start paying for the nursing home now. Okay. All right. It is crucial, and I've trained a lot of attorneys to do this, and they will miss this, and you can't miss this because this is crucial. In DRA states, you have to get the person down to the individual resource amount, whatever that is in your state. You've got to get under that amount. You've got to be in a nursing facility or receiving a nursing home level of care. And then finally, apply. You've got to apply for Medicaid knowing that you're going to be denied or they are not going to pay for the nursing home, but you have to apply. You have to let the state know that you've done this. Okay. So we gave away 50, and let's say our plan to get this money back was the annuity. We put $48,000 into this annuity, and it pays during the penalty period. Now, there were three ways to get this money back. So the gift, and now what do we do with this other money? The first thing we will talk about are annuities. Number two is a gift in return. And then number three is promissory notes. Okay, so annuities. In general, the purchase of an annuity is going to be seen as a penalized transfer unless it meets very specific guidelines. Number one is the state has to be named as the first beneficiary. And when I do presentations like this, I'll introduce in married cases or single cases, I'm like, what will get us through this situation? What allows us to protect assets is a Medicaid qualifying annuity. And I promise you, no one in this room has the annuity that meets this qualification, because when you say annuity, they're like, oh, great, I've got an annuity, so therefore I'm protected from Medicaid. No, you're not. This annuity has to meet very specific qualifications, and one is the state that you're in has to be the first beneficiary. And no one in that room has named the state as the first beneficiary of their annuities. And so get that clear. People will think, oh, he said annuity, I have an annuity, so I'm protected. No, okay? The state, but then people are like, oh, so the state's going to get all of my annuity if this happens. No, they'll just get reimbursed for the amount of care that they have paid for the person in the nursing home. Okay. The annuity has to be irrevocable and non-assignable. It has to be actuarially sound and equal payments, no balloon payments. It's whatever the term of this annuity is, equal payments every single month. And if it is purchased with retirement account, IRA, 401k, there's a little different rules, but generally I don't mess with those. Amber knows those extremely well. She can walk you through that. If you're dealing with an IRA and you want something a little bit different, she understands the rules that apply to IRAs. I generally just go with those things up there. And so obviously I'm going to say, if you're setting up this annuity, use Amber, call Amber, she will walk you through this and absolutely do this correctly. Now, all interest in the annuity must be disclosed, okay? All annuities have to be disclosed, but then this one meets the requirements of Medicaid. And this is where that is, 1396P C1G is the language that will get you there. Okay, so another way to get money back is to do a gift in return. Now, let me just say real quick, I'm not saying this because Amber is sponsoring this. She tells me to say whatever I need to say. I am saying this out of 25 years of experience. It is recommended that you use the annuity. It's once you do it, it just happens. The money comes back. It's done. It just happens. And you don't have to worry about it anymore. This, when I do a gift in return, it's generally for smaller amounts, like 1 or 2 months, just because we're not dealing with that much money and we can get this over with in 2 months. I don't worry about the annuity when I'm dealing with smaller amounts, but I highly recommend you have to depend on the client to get this money back in this time, and we know families, okay? So be careful with the lump sum return, okay? So you can give away 50 and give it all away and then lump sum the 48,000 back into the person's account. Typically, if Medicaid says that once a person, you apply, show the penalty, and you're going through this process, once you're qualified, you'll stay qualified, okay? So like in Arkansas, when we do this, once the penalty starts, it continues to run regardless of what happens to the client. So we could give the entire $48,000 back. I don't do that because I just don't want them to see $48,000 coming back into their account. I do it piecemeal, but you don't have to worry about it. Some states say once the penalty starts, it continues to run, okay? However, some states say that you can't let them not be qualified anymore, okay? So the Medicaid rules allow us to cure the penalty by returning the gifted money. So yes, we gave it away, we've given it back, no penalty, okay? Some states say you can cure part of the penalty by returning it. So if we did a $100,000 gift, returning 48 means we've reduced it by 48. However, some states require you to return all of the money, okay? And that's where you've got to be careful is if you have to return all of the money back, that can be a problem. But I'll give you the solution in just a second. Okay, back to Bob. Well, this is Bob. Previous was Harold. Bob gives away $100,000 in a state with a $5,000 divisor. Penalty is 20 months. If you give back 50, then the penalty is reduced because we've given back half. The penalty goes from 20 down to 10, okay? If we're allowed a partial return. Okay. Now, does your state allow partial returns but require continuous eligibility? If so, then you will return this just enough money each month to pay for the nursing home so that they never get over the $2,000. They have to maintain qualification. Amber's really good about doing this. She will work the numbers for you to show that we've got to keep this person qualified for Medicaid without returning too much money. So she will set up the annuity to make sure that you don't become disqualified with this annuity payment, okay? So you do the annuity and bring it back, okay? So we'll talk about the promissory note in just a second. So when you do the full gift and then return it back piecemeal, like every month, here's actually what's happening. So with a $100,000 gift at $5,000 a month, we have a 20-month penalty, okay? Pure math. So the next month, we need $5,000 to pay for the nursing home. So you return $5,000. So now we don't have a $100,000 gift, we have a $95,000 gift. 95 divided by $5,000 means there's a 19-month penalty, but we've served a month. Okay, so we've come from this end from 20 months down to 19, and from this end, we've gone from 0 months up to 1 month. The next month, we return another 5, we're down to 18 months, but we've served 2, 17, 3, 16, 4, boom, at 10, these two meet. We go back to Medicaid and say, hey, remember this case, $100,000 gift. We've now returned 50, so we're at 10 months, and ta-da, we're 10 months past the application date, so we're there. You tell them that, they look at it, verify that half the money's been returned, so you get back on Medicaid. It's pretty much that easy, but you've got to stay on top of it. Now, if the gift has to be cured in its entirety, if there's no partial returns, if your state says, wait, the only way we're going to not impose a penalty is if you give the entire gift back, okay, fine, we can work with that. What you do there is you make 2 gifts. You give $50,000 to one kid and $50,000 to the other kid, and one of the kids returns their $50,000 to say, oh, okay, you've returned all of this gift. This gift is still a problem, but it's a 10-month penalty, and this $50,000 that we returned paid for the penalty. Okay, throw the rules at us. We'll learn some way to get around it. Now, in some states, you do need a valid debt, but the nursing home obviously is a very valid debt that we're returning this money to pay the debt since Medicaid's not paying for it, so that's not a problem. Okay. Most nursing homes may let you go 10 months with the promise that they will get paid, or some want to be paid every month. Just do whatever makes them happy. Okay. Now, there is a very troubling case out there, New York, Applin versus McCrossin. They came back and said, okay, if you return the gift, it's as if it was never given away. It's like, that hurts, because if you then start giving it back, they're like, oh, okay, fine. You're giving it back. It's as if they never gave it away, so therefore they were never qualified. Thankfully, to my knowledge, that case has just stayed right there and not been a problem that goes nationally. I do know that the state Medicaid people talk nationally, because I could tell stories for days, but there are situations where they get together nationally and talk, and it's like, hey, we did this, y'all should do this, and they do get together and talk, and it's a problem. Thankfully, to my knowledge, this case has stayed just where it is. Okay. Okay. Now, we can do a promissory note. Okay. I personally don't do those. The state of Arkansas gave us such fits about it that I don't do these, but in some cases, in some states, promissory notes work very well, and therefore you can do that. And I'll go through this kind of quickly because I want to get to the how do we figure out how much goes as a gift, how much is returned. The rules are basically the same, but let's go through those real quick. Okay. So with a promissory note, the $48,000 that we need back is loaned with a promissory note back to the applicant. Okay. So Juan gives $50,000 to the trust or to the kids or whatever, and then he loans $48,000 to his son in exchange for a 10-month promissory note paying the money back. Okay, same thing. You draw up the note, it is cheaper, but again, you have to depend on the kid to get the money back to you. Okay, so it's the same strategy as the annuity. Gift here, promissory note here. The promissory note provides the income back, just like the annuity does. The note payments are same length of time as the penalty period. Again, I don't like these because you have to depend on the child to pay it back. Sometimes kids don't cooperate, and that's a problem. Drafting the note. The DRA provides, again, the purchase of a promissory note on or after February 8th, 2006 is an uncompensated transfer unless it meets specific criteria. Now, it is not an asset for less than fair market value if it is actuarially sound. Pull up the SSA table or ideally your state's Medicaid table and see what the table says for the length of time. Equal payments, you can't do balloon payments. Every payment has to be the same. No deferral, no balloon payments, and it can't be a self-canceling installment note. Okay, it can't cancel at the time of death. You have to make the remaining payments part of the estate. Okay. Now, not required by DRA, but highly recommended is in order for the promissory note to be non-countable, it also must be irrevocable and non-assignable, just like the annuity, okay? Now, use an amortization schedule. Pull it up, you can find those online, put that with the note to show here's how much is paid, here's how much is owed. Pay the estate at death. It can't cancel, it has to pay to the estate, which therefore the state can come back and get. No skins, use a commercially reasonable rate, do some research, figure out what the current reasonable interest rate is. Do not let it be negotiable. It's non-negotiable, non-assignable, irrevocable. It's absolutely what it says it is and can't be changed, okay? If it is negotiable, they will deem it an available resource. Okay, and check your notes. Eliminate any secondary market. Don't let Greentree or whoever be able to buy it. It's non-assignable. Okay, no acceleration if you default. No incremental increases, set the interest rate, pay it out the same every single time. No attorney's fees. Obviously, both the applicant and the person that the money was given to has to sign it. Probably should be notarized. It's not required to be notarized, but I would definitely notarize it. And if the lender is incapacitated, make sure the POA permits the person to sign this note, okay? All right, what if, now I've done this as 50-50. It's just easy to conceptualize that way, and I always explain that to the clients. I open this up to the clients as 50-50. It just makes sense. Penalty divisor, length of time, this will pay that length of time, ta-da. But in real life, okay, we are looking at real numbers, okay? When you throw in income, that throws off the numbers. When you throw in the actual cost of care, if your penalty divisor is not the actual cost of care, which I think in Illinois, the penalty divisor is the actual cost of care. So that kind of takes care of itself here, but still you have the income. In most states like mine, there is a across the board penalty divisor, and our cost of care is rarely that number. So that throws off our numbers. How do you calculate that? Here's what you do. I call it the golden formula, because with this formula, you can tell clients almost within a few $100s, here's how much I can save you, okay? And it's after your attorney's fees. You can say, you came in thinking that you're going to protect zero. I'm going to be able to protect this many dollars for you, okay? So let's jump into it. Here's the formula. So the formula is your penalty divisor over the penalty divisor again, plus the actual cost of care. How much are they going to spend each month for the care? That's nursing home, medical, different things. How much are they going to pay? Then subtract out spendable income. After Medicare takes out their stuff, what hits their bank account? How much money can they spend each month? So penalty divisor divided by penalty divisor, cost of care, spendable income equals a percentage, and that's the amount that is kept by the family. Okay. Now, just to tell you, I will be glad to send you this form. I've got this all in a form PDF that I can email to you. Email me and say, hey, Todd, I want the golden formula stuff, and I will give it to you. Okay. All right. So here it is in real life. So if we have a $6,000 penalty divisor, the nursing home actually costs $6,500, but their income is $1,800. You just do the math. 6,000 divided by 6,000 plus 65 minus 1,800 equals 10,700. So therefore, we're at 56%. You see that 50-50 doesn't work when we have income and things. It's almost always at least 50. Generally, it's above 50. So in this situation, 56%. Now, if this client comes in with $220,000, okay, here's what we do, okay? What I forgot to do so many times, I'm like, crap, I just gave them a number and I did not take out my fee. So with this table, I remind you, take out your attorney's fees before you run this number and factor in the annuity fee. And generally, as a general idea, and Amber, if it's going up, let us know. But generally, that's $1,500. Okay, so take the total amount that they've just told you. Mom has $220,000. How much of that can we protect? Take out your fee, take out the annuity fee. In this situation, that gets us down to $206,500. Multiply it by 56%. So therefore, the family, even after our fee, everything's said and done, they're going to protect $115,640. Okay. Okay, so you can tell them we can protect 115,000, and they honestly came into your office thinking they were going to protect zero, and you're saying you're going to walk away with $115,000. They don't care what the fee is, but thankfully you've already put your fee in there, and that's the after. And I'll say you get 115, and that's including paying me. And they're like, fantastic. Okay, so then with the 206,500 minus what the family gets, what's left over, 90,860, that's what goes into the annuity. Okay. That's the formula. All right. So check your work. Okay. And if this is your first time doing this, if this is within the first 10 or 15 times that you've done this, I highly encourage you. And I tell all of my coaching folks, the first time you do this with the client, don't do it sitting in front of them. Say, okay, I've got your numbers. Give me 10 or 15 minutes. I'll be right back. Go back to your desk, sit at your desk where people aren't staring at you as you're doing this math, run the numbers, and then I give you a process of checking your work. So basically with these numbers, it's like, okay, well, let's see if this actually works. So our actual gift is $115,640. Okay, we've taken out the 12. That's a legitimate expense. 1,500 legitimate expense. So now we think we can give this family $115,640. You divide that by your penalty divisor, and so now we are looking at a 19.27 month penalty. All right. So what does that mean? With a $6,000 a month nursing home bill, let's go back here real quick. It's not letting me go back. But remember, sorry, my computer is driving me crazy. Okay. So remember, the nursing home was $6,500. So 6,500 minus her income, which will come in and pay for the nursing home, that leaves a deficit of $4,700 a month. That's what the promissory note should be paying. So if we need $4,700 a month and our penalty is 19.27 months, that equals $90,569. We said here it's $90,860. That's within 300 bucks. Okay. So we're really close, and that tells us our math works. Okay. Now, this also works when there's a history of gifting. Okay. So when someone comes in and says, oh, we have $100,000, but she gave away $50,000 within the look back period. Okay. Take the current amount, add it in as if it were never given away, and work off of 150 rather than the current amount of assets. Add in all of your back gifts and plug that in. Okay. Now, where this really comes into play is, what if there's a farm? Okay. And the family's like, we don't want to sit on this, or if, we don't want to lose the farm. And we don't want Medicaid to come in and put a lien on it at the time of her death. So we need to do something with this farm. So you can actually give away the farm. And like in our previous example, say it's worth $220, then the family's only going to have to pay the $115 plus the $1,500 plus the $12,000 attorney's fees. Well, that's way less than $220. Okay. So they will have to pay much less than that to be able to keep the farm. They don't have to give mom $220 for us to just give it away again. And actually, it's not the 115 plus the 15 plus, it's the 96. Okay, so that's what was in the annuity. That's what's got to go back to mom. So it's the 96 plus the 1,500 plus the 12,000. That's what they have to pay. Pay you, pay Amber, and then pay back to mom. That's way less money than 220. Okay, so you can help families know you've not made gifts, but I would suggest we do this. And since it's a farm, we can actually deed it to you, and it's not going to cost you 220. It's only going to cost you the 96 plus 15 plus 12. Okay. Now, when you get this PDF, here's how you check your work. And I've given you, clue, AEA, PG, gift amount, PD, all of that's described at the front. You just fill in the blanks, run the math, and figure this out. And if you do this like I show you, like this number goes down here and the dotted lines tell you where these numbers go, get to the end of it, it should work out. If not, go check your math. Okay, where are we? 20 till. All right, Amber, am I still with you?
You are. We do have a couple of questions if you're good with that.
Good.
There's a question about client is in a nursing home memory care unit. Doctor's letter states that he's unable to handle his health care or finances, no gifting in POA or trust. What do you recommend in this situation?
Yeah, those stink. I don't, unless and I do a whole presentation. I actually have a podcast episode on that very issue of, does the client have capacity to sign? Just because the doctor says they don't have capacity is not the end all. That's a whole nother presentation. I would encourage you to go to the Elder Law Coach podcast, and there's an episode on that. Listen to what I say about that. Some people agree with it. Most people agree with it, some disagree, but I follow the ethical rules and I say, here's when a person can sign and here's when a person can't sign. But unless you have authority to do the gifting, if the client themselves can't do it, then your agent is doing it. They have to have authority under the power of attorney to be able to do the gifts. And if you don't have that authority, Medicaid's going to fuss. And how they fuss about it is like, you didn't have authority to take her money, so we're calling Adult Protective Services for financial abuse. Okay. Well, that gets your attention real quick. Okay. I've had that phone call before. And even with a power of attorney with gifting language in there, thankfully, I just show them, hey, this has gifting language. You're out of luck on this one. But if you don't have gifting language and you do it, you are subject to problems. Now, you can file a guardianship. In my state of Arkansas, we have not been very successful in getting judges to allow Medicaid planning, particularly gifting of the assets under a guardianship. Now, I do know some states they are successful. So you may need to file a guardianship and see if the judge will allow you to do gifting. The problem is most guardianship statutes state that the assets of the ward shall be used for the ward, and gifting doesn't fit within that statutory requirement. So therefore, judges are like, sorry, we can't do gifting. That's what they tell us in Arkansas. But some states have said, hey, equal protection. If this person did not have a guardianship, it's America, you can give away money. And so therefore, under equal protection, without the guardianship or with the guardianship, they should be able to give away money. So I encourage people, the most important document you can do is a financial power of attorney. Do it now, do it while you can sign it, and have gifting language in there. But if you don't have it, see if they can sign or do the guardianship and see if a judge will let you do gifting.
Okay, and then as far as filing the Medicaid application, is that something that you do in-house, or do you outsource filing the Medicaid application?
We do it ourselves. And I tell clients, look, let us do the application. Let us fight with DHS about this gift, about the ability to do this, about properly calculating the penalty. And particularly if you're doing a gift in return, you absolutely have to do that yourself so that the family doesn't mess it up. But for that fee of $12,000, that's what I do. I do the plan, I do the application all the way through till final decision.
Okay, perfect. Those were the questions that we had. Is there anything you wanted to add about your coaching program before I close everything out?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I've been in practice 25 years. I learned how to do this myself without a mentor, without anyone in my state helping me. There was only one other elder law attorney in Arkansas back in 1999 when I started this, and he was not helpful. And so I learned this the hard way. I screwed up a bunch of cases. I've made all the mistakes I think you can ever make. And thankfully I got through those. I almost quit a bunch of times. And at this point in my life, people started calling me saying, hey, Todd, I got this going on, this going on. And so I started this coaching business to say, hey, I can help you become a proficient elder law attorney. I know a lot of the state's rules. Amber helps me a lot with that. But I can, if you've been doing it and you just can't get over the hump, please call me. Let's talk about it. Let's see what's keeping you from going forward. If you're just getting started, definitely call me. Let's do it right from the beginning, and I will help you avoid a lot of the mistakes that I made. I love to teach. I have a whole educational component of videos. You get phone calls with me every month. Bring me your fact patterns, bring me your issues. Let's talk about it. Let's do it. Let's get you making money. Let's get you helping people. And I can help you do that pretty quick. All right. Thanks, Amber.
Awesome. Thank you, Todd. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Be sure to be on the lookout for our December webinar topic, and I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.